Why are you happy with that part of your life right now? Even if you're not happy with everything, what's the area you're happy with and why? Put me on hold right now, or if you're not going to do that, just think for a moment. Why? Specifically, be real. Why? Now, when I ask this, if you turn me back on now, if I ask this of an audience, I'll have people write this down for a few minutes, and I'll call on people, and I'll say, share with the person next to you first. What are you happy about, and why are you happy in that area? And be specific. And after they share, I'll have people stand up. I'll call on a variety of people, and I say, ma'am, tell me, what are you happy about? And she'll say, well, honestly, I'm really happy with my body. She goes, I never thought I'd say that, but I used to be so unhappy with it, and you know, I did some things, I pushed myself through, and now I exercise regularly, and you know, I'm not perfect, but I feel fit, I feel strong, I feel energetic, and that's really, I don't know, it just feels good to me. Now, I say to everybody, I'm now going to show you what the formula for happiness is, and it's real simple. I want to reveal it to you so you don't ever forget it. Whenever you're happy with an area of your life, it's because right now, your current life experience, I call it your LC, your life conditions, the conditions of your life conditions in that area match or are equal to your blueprint, your story, your belief about how life should be in that area. So this woman says to me, I'm really happy with my body because it's not perfect. Her blueprint is I don't need to be perfect, but it's so much better than it was. I'm fit and I'm strong and I have this energy. Her mental blueprint says, I should be fit, strong, and have energy. I don't need to be perfect, but I should be that way. Well, when my life, my body matches how I think it should be, I feel good about my life. I'll ask somebody else. I'll say, you know, tell me an area you're happy with. Someone else will say, well, I'm really happy with my career. And why? Well, I'm doing better than I even thought I would be. I mean, I'm ahead of the schedule of where I hoped I'd be at this stage. I'm working at this level in this company, and I have these skills and this ability, and it's even better than I thought. Well, once again, listen, this person's happy with this area of their life because their current life conditions in the area called their career are even better than they expected they would be, better than their blueprint, better than their belief of how it should be. If it's really better, you tend to be over the moon. One woman would say, you know, I gotta tell you, I said, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. How come? She goes, because I have this man in my life and I'm in love with him and he loves me and I can be myself with him. And we have this incredible intimacy and this passion and we want to be with each other all the time. And I never get bored with him. You want to be with somebody that you can have total intimacy with, somebody who you love and loves you. Those are part of her rules, her beliefs of how it should be. She said, you know, it needs to be, I never want to be with anybody else. I want to be with them every moment. Her blueprint about how life should be and the way she lives, her relationship's even better than she hoped. When it's better than you hope, you're going to be totally excited. So think about this then. What's an area you're not happy with? Let's see if we can find the formula for unhappiness. If the formula for happiness is to be able to meet your expectations or exceed them, that really makes you excited, but to be happy, you gotta at least meet it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you generally are meeting what you expect you want from your life in that area, you feel good. Life conditions match blueprint, feel good. So what makes you feel bad? What creates pain, stress, frustration? Real easy way to figure it out. Answer this question. What's an area of your life you're not happy with? I mean, be honest with yourself. And even if your life is great in all kinds of ways, I'm sure there's an area you'd like to improve. Anybody who's honest, if they're doing great in their career, very often they don't take care of their body so much. If they're really focused on their body, you know, very often they find themselves in a position where they're not spending enough time with their kids. Or if they're spending time with their kids, their intimate relationship's not doing so well. Because it's the nature of human beings to focus on areas they feel comfortable with and strong in and give those time.
What are the elements of turning nothing into something? Only humans can do this. Here they are. Number one, imagination. Imagine the possibilities. It's hard to say imagination is not something. It's just that it's not tangible. Imagination is not, it's not a table, but it is powerful. Imagination. For that long journey, saved my life. Believe that it's possible for you. A little phrase says, with faith, all things are possible. Without faith, nothing's possible. If there's one thing to pray for, that's probably it. Faith to believe. One, to imagine. Number two, faith to believe. What would make us believe? Testimonials? Someone finishes a dramatic testimonial. Here's where I started, when I was 18 years old. Here's where I am today. And then they finish by saying, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. Come on, right? I started just like you. I read the first book. I went to the first class. I made the first decision to start the process of change. That's how we get inspired. 1, to imagine. 2, to believe. Then here's number 3. Go to work and make it real. How to turn nothing into something. That's how this complex of buildings got here. Someone saw them when the property was vacant. You say, well, how can you see something that isn't there? Well, if someone can't see it when it isn't here, it will never be here. And some people can see it so clearly, they could give you the artist's rendering and say to you, this is the building. You say, no, it doesn't exist. Say, yes, it really does. In thought, in mind, in imagination. Then to believe that it's possible for you. Then simply go to work. That kind of teaching, that kind of training, right? The management of your time, the management of your money. I've been teaching now all these years the 70, 10, 10, and 10 on the management of your money. A lady not long ago told me she was in real estate. I said, how many properties do you own? She said, no, Mr. Rohn, I sell real estate. I said, let me ask the question one more time. How many properties do you own? She said, not any. So here's what I said. If you sell real estate, you make a living. If you buy real estate, you make a fortune. Let me tell you one of the incredible real estate stories. 13 years ago, Ron Wagenhals up in Carmel, California, said, Mr. Rohn, I have this neat little condo downtown Carmel where I know you want to live. I said, yes, I do. And he said, it's really small, but it's right there downtown, 1 bedroom. And he said, I want $80,000 for it. I said, nobody's going to pay $80,000. I mean, this is a real tiny place.
There was one line in there that hit me and it stuck. And the one line was, like the dude that came to see him on the horse. Like, I don't know if y'all remember the movie, but he was riding with him. Like, he was riding with him at every single battle. Like, it was a point in every single battle when it got tough, and Leonidas with his 300, when it got a little tough, he would call on the Arcadians, and they'll come from between the rocks, they'll come out with their crew, and they'll wipe out whoever they was going against, and they'll handle it, right? And so at a certain point, my man saw up on the hill, he saw a little humpback dude, and he saw some more soldiers, more than they had ever saw. And so he came to him, but he was riding with him at every single battle, but he came to him when he saw more than he had ever saw, and he said to him, it's over. They told him they'll give him everything he was fighting for. They came to him at one point, they came to the United States, they said, we'll give you everything you want. Like, you fighting for your land, you can have your land. You want water, like you can have your water. Everything you fighting for, we'll give it to you, and we'll make you king. You'll reign supreme over everything, and everybody got to report to you. They told him that, but they said one word, and when they said the one word, he'll walk off and he'll shake his head. And the one word that they said was submit. Every time they mentioned submission, it was like he just went into another mode, and he wasn't trying to hear him. So when my man came to him on the horse, he said, we got to submit. When he said we got to submit, you saw his eyes got big, and he transformed into something else. He went to him, the thing that stuck to me, Duke, he told him, every man must search his own soul. And he said, while you at it, like you've been battling with me, you've been going with me, but when the adversity and the opposition and the challenge got tough, you said, you got to go. Like, we dead. So while you at it, you search your own soul and you run off and you tell everybody we gonna stand and we gonna live and we gonna die by what we stand for, and everybody gonna know what we represent and what we're a part of. Because we said at a certain point, we said we was gonna live and we gonna die by it. And the thing I love about sports and the thing I love about life, whatever you want, you gotta be willing to accept whatever come with it. Like, it's like a cat in the street. If you wanna be a gangster, you can't be a gangster until you meet a gangster. Like, you can't be a warrior until you meet a warrior. You say, no, I don't want to be a warrior no more. Like, you got to be willing to accept whatever come with it. And he was talking about 11, 15 meetings, and I was talking to Rob in the car, and I said, man, the dangerous thing about having talent, like when you're in the league, everybody can run fast, jump high, hit cats. Everybody can cut it and slice it however you want to cut it and slice it. Everybody can play ball, right? But the thing about it, I told Rob, you got to be careful when you got talent, because sooner or later, if you're not careful, you can become a victim of your own talent. And when you become a victim of your own talent, you don't value the small things anymore. And at a certain point in the early years, the small things were the foundation. And this is the thing that got you to the point that you are at now. But now we don't value it because we feel as if we've gotten to a certain point. Like, adversity is adversity. Opposition is opposition. Challenges are challenges. But it's not so much about the opposition and the adversity that we face as it is about the perspective that we have about the opposition and the adversity that we face. Meaning, perspective drives performance every day of the week. How you view what you do will always affect how you do what you do. Like, I love 300 just because when they said retreat, my man, like, we ain't going nowhere. You came to me, you disrespected my wife, you disrespected, like he could have quit, he could have stopped fighting for it. But the purpose for what he was fighting for was greater than any individual, and so he went to war, the purpose. Meaning the thing of what he was fighting for was greater than any individual, was greater than any 300. And when he died, I'll never forget, one of the soldiers laid down, he said, man, it was an honor to die by you.
It's not a gimmick. Vision boards are very real. You have to understand that. You have to understand all successful people have them. You can't. You're not going to get everywhere you want in life without writing your visions down, without having them in front of you. It's a scripture. This is not a theory that Oprah Winfrey came up with. This is a biblical scripture. God set it in place where you could have the life of your dreams. He put it in place. There is a way that you can have the life of your dreams. You just have to learn the principles of success. Now, they got all these books out here, but all these books on self-help and success, they're based on the principles from the Bible. Ain't nobody coming up with no new stuff. Proverbs got all that information in it. All of that information is in Proverbs. You ain't got to look no further. But since Proverbs is hard to understand, people have self-help books like The Magic of Thinking Big, Power of Positive Thinking, The Winner's Circle, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. All this stuff come out the Bible. There is a scripture, Habakkuk 2:2. It says, write the vision and make it plain, so that he who reads it will run to it. And even though it tarry means take a long time, wait for it, for surely it will come at an appointed time. That's in the Bible. That ain't in the rich people's copy. That's in everybody's Bible. The problem is everybody don't do it. But it's right there. But you got to do it. I'm just telling you, if you don't do it, it's too hard. It's almost impossible. That vision board has changed my life. Everything I put on my vision board, I get. Everything. Now, you have to understand something. It's not going to come when you want it to come. It comes at an appointed time. That's the trick. But the appointed time is what throw people off. Because when you ask God for something, he sends it. He ships it immediately. As soon as you ask him something, you really believe he'll do it? He boxes it up and he ships it to you immediately. The problem with the package is he never gives you the date that the package is going to arrive. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. Because if he told you the date that the package would arrive, it would destroy the requirement he has of all of us, which is faith. Faith is the belief in things that you cannot see. So if you ask God for $1 million and he tell you I'm gonna give it to you in March of 2020, you wouldn't need no faith. You'd be talking to people crazy because you know in 2020, I'm finna be a millionaire. But he sent $1 million as soon as you ask for it. But it's going to come at an appointed time. The problem is people stop waiting on the package. Then when it get to you, because he delivers only to Faith Street, when he delivers to you on Faith Street, but you done stepped off of Faith Street, you over here on I don't see how circle, he don't ship there. Instead of staying on Faith Street, you done stepped over here to I don't believe it Boulevard, or it took too long Avenue. Then the package come to Faith Street. It's just like the post office and FedEx. If you ain't there to receive it, it gotta go back. That's how it works, man. It ain't a magic trick. God is real fair and simple. That's how I got here, cause of vision board.
It's easy to go through life thinking of all the reasons why we can't be successful, why we won't get well, why we'll never meet the right person. We look at our situations in the natural and think the odds are against us. I talked to a man that struggles with an addiction. He said, Joel, my dad had this same addiction. My grandfather struggled with it. The odds don't look too good for me. But as long as you think the odds are against you, you'll get stuck where you are. You have the most powerful force in the universe breathing in your direction. God has crowned you with favor. He has armed you with strength for every battle. He wouldn't have allowed that difficulty if He wasn't going to turn it around and use it to your advantage. The odds may be against you, but the Most High God is for you. He is a supernatural God. He parts Red Seas. He turns water into wine. He opens the eyes of the blind. Your circumstances may look impossible, but the God who can do the impossible is working behind the scenes, arranging things in your favor, turning negative situations around. Since God is for you, that means the odds are for you. Don't go through life thinking, not me, Joel. I come from the wrong family. The odds are against me. No, turn it around. I've been born into a new family. My Heavenly Father controls the universe. I have royal blood flowing through my veins. When you know the odds are for you, you'll put your shoulders back. You'll carry yourself with confidence. You'll expect to do great things. All through the day, this should be playing in our mind. The odds are for me. I'm destined to accomplish my dreams. I'm destined to overcome this challenge. I'm a child of the Most High God. But don't be surprised when you find yourself in situations where it feels like the odds are against you. You don't see a way out. There aren't any logical solutions. God puts us there on purpose so that when He turns it around, nobody will get the credit except Him. Everyone will know it is the hand of the Lord. And when your circumstances seem impossible, instead of being discouraged, God, why me? No, get ready. You're in perfect position for God to show out in your life. He is setting you up to show His favor in amazing ways. Are you letting the odds talk you out of your dreams, talk you out of your health, talk you out of your freedom? Not long ago, the lottery was at a record amount. I read where the odds of winning it were 1 in 300 million. They use this example that if you laid pennies on the ground side by side from Seattle to Miami, and you marked one of those pennies with a special X, the chances of you winning that lottery were the same as you choosing that one special penny between Seattle and Miami. They were basically saying, forget about it. You're not going to win. In the book of Genesis, it talks about how God created the heavens and the earth. The word it uses for creation means that He made it out of nothing. Every expert would have said, that's impossible. You don't have anything to work with. If you had skies, oceans, grass, air, then maybe you could make something, put it together, but you can't do that with nothing. It's one thing to have odds of 12 and 2600. That's not so great. It's another to have odds of 1 in 300 million. That's very unlikely. But what about when the odds are 0 in 300 million? 0 in 2600. It's impossible. There's no chance. Here's how amazing God is. He started the universe with odds of 0. He had nothing to work with. No way in the natural, but God is not moved by the odds. He didn't check with accounting and say, I'm about to create stars, galaxies, planets. I have nothing to work with. What are the odds of this happening? Accounting would have said 0. You have no materials, no resources. God would have said, thank you for your information. Now let there be light. Light came at 186,000 miles a second. He spoke worlds into creation. He didn't Google it to see if it was possible. He didn't try to figure out a way. He is the way. He didn't try to open a door. He is the door. He doesn't check with the odds to see if you can reach your destiny. He speaks and it becomes your destiny. He's not limited by your background. by how you were raised, by your education. He is all powerful. He can take nothing and make something magnificent. Imagine what he can do with you. You are his prized possession. He breathed his life into you. You have the DNA of Almighty God. There may be odds against you in certain areas, but they cannot stop you. God has destined you to leave your mark. Don't let the odds discourage you. Don't let what you think is not going to happen talk you out of believing. Even if the odds are 0 in a million, all God has to do is speak, and the odds change in your favor.
You can't just make yourself in charge because you want to be in charge. We're talking about our nation is going through what is supposed to be the peaceful transference of power. I don't know how peaceful it is. I don't know how transference it is, but that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the peaceful transference of power. Power is transferred, not created, not self-induced. It is transferred from one to the other. Somebody has to convey power unto you. Transference of power is the very reason that John pointed out Jesus when he was standing in the Jordan River and said, "Behold, the Lamb of God." He pointed him out. He empowered him. Transference of power. Then after that, he says, "I must decrease that he might increase." Transference of power. Why are you teaching this? We are in the middle of the change. The changing of the guard, the changing of the world, the changing of times. We are right in the middle of not just the charge, not just the challenge, but we are in the middle of changing. Change is uncomfortable. My wife, when she was grieving the loss of her mother, I told her the only thing you can do is be to the kids what she was to you, thereby keeping her alive in your behavior. She died, left you in charge. The older saints are passing off the scene. You're in charge. Are you ready to grow up and stand up and be the person that you were created to be? Or are you stuck in the student's role, knees locked up under a desk, books up under your seat, and you don't know when to get up out of that chair and walk up to the front of the class and teach the course? Let me go, Mama, I got it. No, my time of tutelage was not over. I failed because I left too soon. The prodigal son fell because he went too soon. We are seeing massive failures out of good people making bad mistakes because they went too soon. Paul says, "I will tell you when to go. Now is the time to go." I can tell it's time for you to start because I'm empty. I can tell that you are full because I'm drained. I can tell that you are ready because I'm finished. Do you have a who in your life that pours into you, that builds you up, that strengthens you, that's preparing you? You need that in every area of your life, and they don't always have to be the same person. The person who mentors me in the faith might not be the person who mentors me in finances, might not be the person who mentors me in exercise, may not be the same person who mentors me as a husband. But for every area that you hope to be excellent in, there has to be somebody that pours into you and then decides when they're ready to give you the charge, the challenge, and the change. And then he says to Timothy, if that were not startling enough, if that were not enough to digest, that I have to be what I saw and that I have to show up in the world as my teacher and not as his student. That I have to put on my daddy's shoes and make them fit. That I have to be a grown woman. That I have to be a grown man. That I have to stand up to life. If that were not daunting enough and intimidating enough and enough to make you fall down on your knees and humbling enough to say, God, without you, I can do nothing. Without you, I would fail. Without you, I'd be like a ship without a sail if it were not enough to make you do that. if it were not enough to drop you to your knees, if it is not enough to get you off of Instagram, making all kinds of crazy posts because you think this is fun. This is not fun. This is life and death. This is not about you. This is about Jesus. This is not about getting people to be attracted to you. This is about getting people to be attracted to Jesus. This is not that willy-nilly stuff that I see passing for ministry today. It's not. Reproof, rebuke with all long suffering is not this willy-nilly stuff that we see to get attention.
It's easy to get satisfied where we are. When we've seen blessing and favor, God's protected us, promoted us, opened doors, we can start thinking that we've seen our best days. But God never does His greatest feats in your yesterdays. They're always in your future. The scripture says the path of the righteous gets brighter and brighter. What God has in front of you is more fulfilling, more rewarding than anything you've seen in the past. But sometimes before it gets brighter, it gets darker. Before we see more than enough, we go through a season of not enough. There are times the good has to come to an end to make room for the best. Doesn't make sense to us. Why did my business slow down? Why did this person walk away? Why did this door close? It's all a part of God's plan. He's shaking things up to move you out of the good into the best. If He didn't close those doors, you wouldn't see the fullness of your destiny. We may not like the process. It's uncomfortable. We're doing the right thing, but the wrong thing is happening. We're working hard, but not seeing increase. Thoughts will tell you it's never going to get better. Don't believe those lies. That disappointment, the breakup, the slow season didn't stop what God has for you. It's getting you in position for favor that you've never seen. Your relationship didn't work out. God knew it was going to happen. That didn't catch Him off guard. He's already lined up someone better than you can imagine. Your business has slowed down. The contract didn't work out. That setback is not stopping you. It's setting you up for new levels. You're going to come out not like you were before, but healthier, stronger, promoted, increased. John chapter 2, Jesus was at a wedding in Galilee. There was a big celebration with hundreds of people. Everything was going great until they ran out of wine. His mother came and told him about the problem. Jesus had not performed any miracles in public up to this point, but she knew something about Jesus that others didn't know. She told the staff to do whatever He asked them to do. There were 6 large water pots over to the side. They held 30 gallons each. Jesus told the men to go fill them with water. I can imagine them thinking, what good is that going to do? But instead of talking themselves out of it, they filled the containers and brought them back to Jesus. He said, now dip some out and take it to the host of the wedding, to the man that's in charge. Verse 9 says, when the host tasted the water that was now wine, he called the groom over and said, usually a host serves the best wine first. Then when everyone is full, doesn't know any better, he brings out the less expensive wines, but you have saved the best until now.
You have something special. You're born for such a time as this. This is a time that we need to be concerned but not consumed with fear, as many people are consumed with fear right now, or many people are being reckless and just don't take this seriously. Your life has value. Your life is a gift. Life is God's gift to us, and how we live our lives is our gift to God. And so as you look at yourself, look at your goals and dreams, this is a time to look at yourself as Angelica talked about, and put in the work, put in the work that's necessary to develop yourself mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And part of what I'm doing now is spending a lot of time creating new ideas, creating ways to earn money virtually from the computer, because the computer eliminates geography. So I'm not getting on any more planes. Over 11,000 people have tested positive flying. Well, that's not happening to me. So what I'm doing now, if you got a story, we're going to share with you how to tell that story, how to create an experience with that story, how to hold attention with that story and transform people individually and collectively. And the proof is in the pudding. That's why I want you to see someone that has been in the program and see how well she handled herself. And you can do that too. Just the statement by Steve Jobs, the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world. Why? Because stories transform people. People hunger more than for food and for water. They hunger for stories that can lift their spirits, particularly now when you're inundated with like 5,000 hits on our minds every day, advertising, different messages, trying to get territory, set up camp, and renting space in our minds. We have to carve out a place that we take care of ourselves. I'm encouraging you. 1, listen to positive messages. 2, turn off the tell lie vision. 3, do something creative. I'm taking singing lessons. I'm training speakers, and I'm exercising. I'm about to take yoga and qigong and working on me. And I'm looking for someone who has some edges that can cut my kid flat top.
What is freedom of speech? It's the freedom to speak. So I read a politician today saying, I agree with freedom of speech, but there are limits. Well, there's no freedom of speech then. Freedom of speech is the freedom to speak. If anyone's not allowed to speak, then it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom to conform to certain parameters of what are acceptable. And then what that's doing is giving power to some authority to decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And as we see, and we're seeing it massively now, once you give that power to an authority, it then starts interpreting what can and cannot be said in a way that squeezes and squeezes and squeezes more and more of what cannot be said. This is what political correctness is about. What is political correctness? It's simply manipulating the target population to silence itself, so those in authority don't have to. It's ridiculous. Now, people say, well, you say that people can say anything. Well, yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. There are laws against incitement to racism, incitement to hatred, incitement to violence. There are laws against that.
Are they laws you agree with?
Yeah, and if people use their freedom of speech to incite those things, then there are laws to deal with that, and those laws should deal with it. What I'm saying is, once you start censoring freedom of speech at the point of delivery, or even more sinister, before the point of delivery, by banning people from the right to have access to the communication networks or speak in public, that is what the fascists do. What did fascists do in Nazi Germany? What does any tyranny do? It wants to silence those that are exposing the tyranny and have a different version of events to the tyranny. So what did the Nazis do? They burnt the books. They banned the meetings of people who were exposing the Nazis. And now in this inverted world, we have people who call themselves progressives, and they seem to have this extraordinary self-delusion that progressive mentality has something to do with being liberal, when it's not. It's the opposite of liberal. They are the ones that claim to be wanting people to be inclusive and to have diversity.
But maybe on their terms.
When they're destroying diversity, and they have become the new tyranny. They have become the new Nazis. Well, what I'm saying here is, if you look at what this progressive mentality is doing in silencing people and deciding in their arrogance what people can and cannot say and what opinion they can and cannot have. You look at what the Nazis did, you look at what the communist Soviet Union did in terms of freedom of speech, and you'd show me the difference between them. There is none. And it's this self-deluded arrogance which goes like this: I am right, therefore anyone who says something different must therefore be wrong, and by definition, because they are wrong and I am right, their freedom of speech to be wrong doesn't need to be taken into account.
Well, first of all, if you don't have a purpose, let's say, it isn't that your life becomes neutral in a meaningless sense. It's that your life becomes characterized by unbearable suffering, because the baseline condition of life is something like unbearable suffering. And what you have to set against that is a noble and worthwhile purpose. And hopefully your determination of that purpose is buttressed to some degree by the wisdom of the past, because you can't conjure something like that up on your own. And if you provide people with nobility of purpose, then they can tolerate the suffering of existence without becoming entirely corrupted by it. And cultures that don't do that, it isn't even so much that they die, it's that cultures that don't do that are dead. They're done. They don't have a story anymore. They don't have a call to adventure. And then, well, then everyone suffers stupidly as a consequence. It's a very bad thing. So Churchill made the same observation that many of the great psychologists and philosophers made in the early part of the 20th century. So bring the story forward and propagate it and make it the most noble possible story. And then you motivate people to transcend themselves, which they need to do. So yes, he's exactly right in his diagnosis. People think of freedom as the ability to implement your whim. And freedom opens up that as a possibility. But sustainable freedom, that isn't what it's about at all. It's primarily about responsibility. It's about determining which load you're going to pick up and carry. That's the proper definition of appropriate freedom. It's not dim gratification of instantaneous impulse. It's self-evident that that doesn't work. 2-year-olds do that, and that's why they can't live in the world. They can't organize themselves across time. They can't sacrifice the moment for the future. And the more sophisticated you get, I suppose, in some sense, the more you're able to do that. And then your freedom becomes the freedom to choose the proper responsibility. And that's also not something that we've been good at communicating to young people. If we talk to them about responsibility, we generally do it in a finger-wagging sort of way. It's like, well, you're breaking the rules, you're a bad person. And well, that may be true because people break the rules and there's no shortage of badness in people. But the proper message for young people is to say, well, no, you don't understand. You want to take on responsibility. You want to take on the heaviest load that you can conceive of, that you might be able to move, because it gives your life nobility and purpose. And that offsets the tragedy. And not only psychologically, not only does it offset psychologically because you have a purpose and something to wake up for, right, and to face the difficulties of the day, but also because if you face the difficulties of the day properly, you actually ameliorate suffering, not only in the psychological sense, but because you make the world at least a less terrible place. And that's something, right? To move things away from hell is something, even if you're not, self-evidently moving forthrightly to heaven. To move things away from the worst they can be is, well, that's a noble goal in and of itself.
See, people are always talking about freedom, but they're always thinking how to bind themselves to something or somebody. If you're really lost in your life, you're absolutely free, isn't it? Hello? No? Freedom is a territory which needs a lot of maturing and culturing to handle. Otherwise, people doing compulsive things, they're thinking they're free. These are compulsive things. Somebody is drinking, if you say, why don't you not drink today, you can do it tomorrow. Why don't I have the freedom to drink? No, it's compulsive. If you're calling your compulsiveness as freedom, it's very unfortunate. You lost all your freedom in compulsiveness. So freedom is that kind of a territory where you have to culture yourself, mature yourself to exist free. Everybody, I think at some point, we provide these opportunities for young people to come and just be by yourself. No compulsive talking, no phone, no drink, no nothing, simple. You eat what you want for nourishment and then simply be. Everybody must spend at least a little bit of time like this, because only then you understand how compulsive you are. Unfortunately, we are translating compulsiveness as some kind of a goal in our life or freedom in our life. No. See, if you want to get somewhere in your life, get somewhere does not mean be better than somebody, do this, earn this, that, no. As a life, your experience of life should become a fantastic experience. So right now, all the crazy things that people are doing in their life, why? They drink, sexuality, temple, this, meditation, whatever they're doing. Why are they doing? Because they want their experience of life to become pleasant. Yes or no? Somebody hits the bottle, somebody hits somebody else, and somebody does something else, but essentially looking for pleasantness. If your body becomes pleasant, we call this health. I'm talking yoga now to you, officially. If your body becomes pleasant, we call this health. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it pleasure. If your mind becomes pleasant, we call this peace. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we call it love. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it compassion. If your very life energies become pleasant, we call this blissfulness. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it ecstasy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call this success. Only for this last one, to make our surroundings pleasant, we need the cooperation of many forces around us. Many things have to fall into place. But to keep your body pleasant, mind pleasant, emotion pleasant, your life energies pleasant, it's 100% your business, not good for the business.